Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here. It really means a lot to me. I'm glad that you're with us. And today we're talking about one of the ideal scenarios for making or saving a lot of money as a teenager while working in high school. Now, this won't be exact for everybody. It's going to look a little bit different depending on what your high school career looks like, what your goals and ambitions are. You may be a high performance athlete, therefore, you're going to spend a lot of time working out, training, playing games, etc., etc. But if this does work for you, I hope it helps you, or at least I hope it motivates you. Because what we're talking about today is you want to get to a place where you have a lot of money when you're 18, and you have to start as soon as possible. So as soon as you're able to get a job in whatever country or area that you're working in, I would recommend that you do so. Well, I think most countries would have a legal limit for how many hours you can work during a school week. And so you want to be self-aware and figure out how much time you need for homework and how much time you can afford to work, but work as much as possible, and then don't spend as much as possible. That's the key. And so right away, I just want to point out that this will look a bit different for everybody. I am going to give some numbers, but these won't be exact for you. These numbers are designed to motivate you and inspire you, but not necessarily something that you should set as your benchmark because your life is different. You got different things going on. This might not be feasible for you. I do believe that there are some of you who this will be perfect for, and it's totally possible. And that's awesome, and I hope you take action and are inspired. First off, I believe let's assume that your country only allows you to work 18 hours during a school week. So 3 hours after school and some work on the weekends as well. Let's say now you have to get the job. So you get as many jobs as you can until you max out those hours. So you want to work 18 hours. Now that you're working 18 hours, let's say we're going to assume that you're making minimum wage of $12, just 12 bucks. In the States, it can be a little bit less depending on what state you are. If you're in Canada, like I am, it can be about the same or a bit higher depending on, where you are. We're going to assume it's $12. So you work 18-hour weeks while doing your homework during school, you don't want to sacrifice your grades too much, especially if you're looking to get into a great university. Now, if you're someone who understands that you don't necessarily want to go be a doctor or a lawyer, your grades may not be the most important thing in the world. I have another video on my channel talking about that. But you want to keep your grades up nonetheless, because nobody wants to fail and be held back a year. That sucks. So as long as you can keep your grades up, work 18 hours a week. Now you make it 12 bucks an hour, and that turns into about $178 after tax. So it would be about 200 plus something, but the government's going to take money from you. That's just how it is. So it's 178 or 172 after tax. Now let's just imagine what happens if you do that all year. Let's say you take 2 weeks off, but let's say you're in a really great position and you can just work your butt off all year round. Don't take any breaks. And this is not accounting for full time during the summer. You work as much as possible and you spend as little as possible. That leaves you with about 8,640 bucks in 1 year. Not bad for a high school student. But the key is you actually have to keep that money, and in order to actually have a large savings account. So you can't spend it. Can't spend it on Gucci. You can't spend it on, drugs or Xboxes or things that don't make you any more money. You buy thrift clothing. You'll probably be one of the richest kids in your school, but no one will know because you won't look rich, and that's okay. One of the keys to making this work for you and keeping the money in the bank is being incredibly determined to not bow to peer pressure and have people say, oh, you should buy this expensive jacket, or you should look this way and buy these nice clothes so that you can look a certain way, etc., etc. Forget all that. They're broke. They don't know nothing. You do what you have to do in order to achieve your goal. Now, you're listening to this, we're assuming your goal is to have a large bank account by the time you're 18. And so you got to cut back on whatever you can. You got to steal leftovers from your parents' fridge and use that as your school lunch so you don't have to buy McDonald's. Cut back on vices that are expensive, like cigarettes. Those things are ridiculously expensive and will make you poor, especially when you're only making 172 bucks a week. And so, but let's have a bit of grace. Let's say you take the 640 off and you're left with 8,000 a year. That's a lot. And I know we're setting that high, but this is just to inspire you, all right? Let's say you start working at 16, 17, and you go through 17, 18. So grade 10, 11, and 12. You work 3 years during high school. You get your grades up. You do well. And now, boom, 3 times 8,000, or 3 times the 8,000 is about 25,000, just about, or 24,000. That's a lot of change for an 18-year-old to have. If you do that, well, guess what? You're now the richest 18-year-old on the block. And of course, this is assuming you didn't spend it on, a really nice car and waste your money on that, because Lord knows that's how you waste your money. But let's say you haven't bought a car yet. This is assuming you were able to live with your parents and just work, go to school, and they were happy to support you. And guess what? Now you got 24 grand in the bank. You look poor, but you're actually rich, and nobody knows. So you're like a sleeper. Nobody knows that you're actually rich, and you want to keep it that way so people don't bother you and ask you for money. Of course, be charitable and generous whenever you can. But let's say now you're 18. You've worked for 3 years. You spent no money. You didn't buy Xboxes. You didn't buy fancy cars. You didn't buy nice clothes, or drugs, or wasted on anything like that. You have approximately 24,000 in the bank. Now let's say that's a little bit high. So let's round it down just to make it easy for ourselves, and cut it at $20,000. So you're 18 and you got $20,000. Now you have an option. If you know what university you want to go to, or what college, boom, you have tuition. If you go to a college program, say to become a plumber, get in a trade that'll pay you more money. You do a 2-year program, it costs you 20 grand, perfect. You got the 20 grand, and then you can work during college to support yourself. And then your tuition is paid for, you don't have to go into debt. Maybe get into a co-op program that allows you to work during college, and you can graduate debt-free, get into a work field, get an apprenticeship, and start making some real money, and boom, you're on your way without any debt. Or there's another option. You can take a gap year. This is especially useful for those of you who don't quite know exactly what you want to do with your life yet. You do not need to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on university just to discover what you want to do. That is a way to do it, but it's not necessary. And I hope that you don't let people pressure you into doing that, especially if it's not something that you yourself actually want to do. So the second option, the option that I did, is you take a leap year or a gap year, and you work full time. You work as much as you possibly can, and you save it all up. Now you're one of the richest 19-year-olds on the block because you haven't wasted your money, you haven't spent it on useless garbage or fancy cars or fancy clothes, and you've worked a full-time job, and you've been able to negotiate with your parents to live with them rent-free. This is very, very important. I highly recommend you do this if you can. Some people, this won't be right for you. You gotta go when you're 18. I get it. You have to do whatever works best for you. But for some of you, it would be very, very beneficial to negotiate with your parents and say, hey, I need some time to figure it out. Can I live here rent-free while I'm working hard to learn about myself and figure out what I want to do? If you word it right, you play it right, I have no doubt that you can figure that out if your parents are not too strict about the whole thing. So if you get to live rent-free with your parents, then you're really, really doing well, because now you don't have to pay rent. All that money is now sitting in the bank, and you're 19 with your whole life ahead of you, and you can have upwards of 30 grand sitting in the bank, waiting to be used on your passions, a passion project, tuition, a new business idea, or travel, whatever you want. The point is, if you work hard and you don't spend your money on stupid crap, you can have money. And when you're in high, and you can start when you're in high school. So I hope this inspired you. I hope this helps you. Please let me know what you think down below. If you're listening to this on my podcast, thank you so much for tuning in with me. I will see you next time. If you're watching this on YouTube, consider subscribing and follow me on social media for more content just like this. And I will see you next time. Have a great week.